A quart of wheat for a denarius, 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. Jesus tells us what this is. He says there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are but the beginning of birth pains. You need to understand that when Jesus speaks here of famines and earthquakes, he is not speaking literally. Earthquakes in Scripture is the idea of nations being torn apart, governments being split. Governments, entities all over the world are being split. And when he speaks of famines, I believe he's speaking of man-made famine. Remember, I believe that in order for the Antichrist to rise up, he has to believe that he, as a man, is God. It's the idea that people will stand up and say man is God, not God. It's why men have tried to better God's food supply. They're actually growing chicken in vats now. They're trying to make beef and pork out of grain. Man acting like God, saying we can better God's way of doing things. But it's also famine here, again, I still believe is not literal because there has always been enough food on the planet. The problem is getting it to people and making it affordable. And that man has messed up because men got involved. I see that in the idea that a quart of wheat costs a day's wage. The average worker will spend all his time just trying to feed himself, let alone everything else he has to spend money on. 3 quarts of barley, which is the cheapest of the grains, for the same. But do not harm the oil and the wine, which is for the rich. This demonic entity was released that the poor would continue getting poorer, the rich would continue getting richer, and the difference in the two would get so wide that the average man spends all day working just to feed himself, and the rich have more than enough. We've seen it all over our world. 3 demonic entities have been released to bring this to the world, that eventually they will get us to a place where Satan can put everything he's got into one man, and that man will rule the world because he's going to bring the answers to it all. Man, 666, the strength of man strengthened by Satan, the great rebel.